Greetings. You have reached Bethany Missionary Baptist Church, a loving and praying church.
Weekly and social announcements are now transitioning to digital. Please submit your announcements by end of day on Wednesday to the Media Ministry. Bethany, here is your weekly and social announcements. These are your announcements.
Hey there, Bethany. Early voting for the primary election runs February 14th through February 25th. Election day is March 1st, 2022. Take advantage of early voting again, February 14th through February 25th. Make your vote count.
Let's pray. Father God, we just thank you for another day. We thank you for health and strength. We thank you for desire to come together and pray and study your word. Thank you for these who will come out of the weather predictions that they're here, Lord. And so, Lord, we ask that thou would bless our company, bless our minds, our hearts. Help us, Lord, to be sponges, trying to absorb the great principles of your word, your will, and your way. Let your spirit speak to our hearts from your word, and let that word find life in our lives. Help us to leave this place better than we came. Help us to be walking demonstration of that same word and the same will. It's a prayer we pray and ask in Jesus' name before you sin. Amen. Today we're looking at this principle of multiplication. Principle of multiplication in your book, I think it's on page 49. Page 49. We basically talk about two principles in this lesson, at least two principles of multiplication first, and the lesson reveals that the miracle of blessings are available to God's people, but said first of all, the resources must be blessed by Jesus. Remember when they had the 2 fish and 5 loaves, they brought it to Jesus. So he said, that's number one. If I want my finances blessed, I must first be willing to bring them to Jesus. Okay? And then he says the next thing is, you must be willing to give those resources away, because you have to give them away before they can multiply. So give them away before they can multiply. I got a little problem with Robert's interpretation of that Now, first of all, let's kind of modernize. Y'all know everybody heard the miracle of feeding the 5,000. Y'all know by now it's more than just 5,000 men. Matthew said it's 5,000 men plus women and children.
Right.
You get figures like 15,000. He come up with something like 25 in the presentation, 20 in the book. And all that could be true. I don't know. It depends on how many women and how many children. It's no secret that there were more than 5,000 families represented there. The question is how many people were with them. See, a lot of times Jewish men really didn't travel with the women and the children. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't, so I don't know. If he had his whole family with him, if all had their family, they got a wife, that's 5,000 more, that's 10,000. If he got 2 kids, that's another 10,000. So you're talking about 20,000 people. If you got 3 quick kids, that's 25,000 people. Y'all feel me? So you're talking about a lot of folk. In terms of today's vernacular, you're not talking about 5 loaves of bread. You're basically talking about 2 sardines or 2 small fish and 5 biscuits. 5 Popeye rolls. You're not talking about a lot of stuff. Okay? Now, Robert's interpretation is Jesus takes that roll and cut it in half, or break it in half, and give that half to Peter. And then he goes, and when he tries to break off, it starts multiplying. Hookers are basically just say the little boy was a little hustler in the sense that they would buy food and then try to sell it. Sort of like convenience stands at the games, you know, they have concession stands. And so he's really, because he's very, very seldom a kid gonna have a lunch and he's the last one to eat it. Usually when a kid got a lunch, that's the first thing. He gonna eat that for breakfast time is over. You know. So basically I'm saying that the kid probably was trying to sell some food and this is all he had left. Which would say, instead of saying they stole the money, that's what we're doing, they stole the lunch from the kid. I think they probably put their, all of a sudden, put their resources together and bought the lunch from the kid. But at the very least, all we got, let's say, 10,000, 15,000 people, and you got 2 sardines, 5 biscuits. Not enough. I got a problem with his interpretation because if he takes the biscuits, cut them in half, you got 5 biscuits, that's just 10 pieces. You got 12 disciples. He ain't got enough for every disciple to have the biscuit. I think Jesus blessed it and then he started breaking it. And when he started breaking it, they started coming with receptacles to take it to the people. And he just kept on breaking, and they kept on coming. He kept on breaking, they kept on coming. And then they go and hand it out. When they get through, they have to come get some more. He kept on breaking, kept on breaking. Y'all feel? You know the story. They handed out enough for all of the 5. First of all, he says, I want you to set everybody in 50s, in groups of 50s. That's important. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. In groups of 50s. And then when they set them down, they started feeding them. And when they started feeding them, the Bible said all of them were full. Everybody there. Not just Jesus, not just the disciples. Everybody. If the disciples ate it first, they wouldn't have had enough. But before they ate, they passed it out. When they passed out to all of them, then they started eating out content. And everybody is full. How you know everybody's full? He said because when they start collecting the scraps, they had 12 baskets full of food. Whatever he was serving on, they served them on plates or whatever. When they got through setting them out, and everybody ate. Let's say you just put it on a plate on the table and the people just come by and eat.
a civic buffet style, everybody eat. And he ended up with everybody full. 12 baskets of. Y'all follow? Let's look at this principle of multiplication that he's talking about. How is this applicable to our finances? If we're going to take this miracle of feeding of the 5,000 and use that as a blueprint, if you will, for managing our finances. The first thing you got to do is bring your money to Jesus. Now he talked about the idea of having Jesus bless the tithe. And he said, of course, if he blesses the tithe, he automatically blesses the rest. I want to be a little bit more intentional. Yeah, I want to bless my tithe. That's his. But I want to ask God to bless my part. Mm-hmm. Y'all feel me? Don't just ask him to bless your tithe, ask him to bless your part. Okay? Now, y'all remember to come back about the organization. I'll talk about that later. If he blesses the tithe, which is his, and he blesses the 9/10, which is mine, this is just me talking. I think automatically, because I tithe, he turns my 9/10 into 10/10. In fact, what I'm saying is, what you would have been able to do with all of the money, now that you've given part to God, to Christ, you're going to be able to do that with 9/10 of the money. Just because you tithe. It's me talking. It's because God blessed it. Well, Haynes, what you saying? You saying that stuff Mars talking about is a bunch of malarkey? No. Because when you read Malachi chapter 3, let's turn to Malachi chapter 3. Start reading, I think it's verse 7. I do know it's the last book in the Old Testament, right before Matthew. That means if you find Matthew, you gotta be able to find Malachi.
You said verse what?
What does 7 say?
Even from the days of our fathers, ye are gone away from my ordinance, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. But ye say, wherein shall we return? You may do 8.
Keep reading it.
Will a man rob God? Ye have robbed me. But ye have said, wherein have ye robbed thee? In tithes and in an offering. Ye are cursed with a curse.
Okay, let's put a pin right there. Say, what did you rob me? He said, not just in tithe. Huh? Mm-hmm. What did he say? Tithes.
And offering.
Come on here, somebody. See, a lot of people never really see the real principle of multiplication because they never get past the tithe. Mm-hmm. He said, you can just rob me in tithes. You rob me in tithes and offerings. If I can't give, no, what's the 3 ways of giving? Y'all remember? Number 1, tithe, offering,
and other.
An extravagant offering. Tithe, giving, extravagant giving. Y'all follow? Mm-hmm. So he's saying that we rob him when we don't give him. Keep reading.
Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. And prove me now for hence, said the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that ye shall not have enough room to receive.
Read that again, you had that sound wrong.
I know it. Let me say it again. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. And prove me now wherefore, said the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that ye shall not be.
He said, try me, test me, said the Lord. See if I'm good for what I say. And see if I won't open up the windows of heaven and pour you out so many blessings you can't receive. Y'all feel me? In other words, God makes a promise that he will multiply our resources when we learn how to give. Anybody got a question? Y'all see where I'm coming from? We talked about extravagant giving last week. Did that affect anybody? What did y'all feel about that when y'all went home last week? Anybody feel like confessing? Indicted?
Well, the way I feel that I wasn't giving all that I can give, but you don't have enough resources. You may give just your 10th on your tithe and offering.
Anybody else?
I had a situation last week. I was blessed with an order from Foot Locker, and it was a $1,500.
You had an order from Foot Locker?
Mm-hmm.
$1,500?
I had to make T-shirts for Foot Locker.
Oh, you make it? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You make it money.
Well, that was my first big order like that. Anyway, so it was like, after reading this, and he was like, okay, well, give it back. And I was like, give it all back? I guess I was. And it was like, give 500 back. So I sent 500. So I don't know, is that?
You sent 500 to Foot Locker?
To Bethany.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I was wondering if that was.
What's the tithe on $1,500?
$150.
$150. And you gave 500. I suspect that's more than 150.
But that was my tithe but my extra, my offering.
Exceeded your tithe. So what's the question? Is that what he's talking about? Extravagant giving? Yeah.
Right.
You glad you gave it?
Yeah. I have no regrets. I mean, hey, I'm just trying to do what he say do.
Okay.
But when it came to mind, give it back, was I supposed to give it all back?
See, that's what I'm saying. Like when you give the example like he got, give all your money away. That don't mean you're supposed to go and give all your money away.
Okay. Like, cause I was reading back at the beginning of the book.
Yeah, what you got to do, that's the point you got to see. You have to be tuned in spiritually to what God tells you to give.
Okay.
You always give all that God tells you to give.
Okay.
Don't give all that Haynes say give. No. Don't give everything I give.
Right.
Give all that God tells you. Because it's personal. It's personal. And again, like I said before, I'm not giving because I'm going to get. I'm not expecting to receive.
Right.
I'm giving because what God has already done.
Right.
Okay? But see, this whole principle, this matter of, like I said, I'm like Joanne, I'm indicted because, you could do more. You can always do more. But what the Spirit was telling me is, There's a direct relationship between your generosity and your blessing. There's a direct relationship between your lack of generosity and your blessing. See, in other words, you kind of control it. It goes back to that verse in Galatians. You know, be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever a person sows, plants, that's what you get. So they're basically saying, I control my blessings. Whatever I give, that's what he said, God's going to give it back. But now when God gives it back, He always going to give back more than what you gave. That's not just true with money, it's true with all of it. Kindness, the whole 9 yards. So see, it becomes it becomes real personal. See, that's what I'm saying. It's something you have to grow into. Because like I say, here you're talking about giving, and you got somebody who's on, don't even tithe. So, you know, you're wasting your time talking to them about giving. Because they don't catch it, they don't get the principle. So it's not until I get in the arena of tithing that I can even start talking about giving. And it's not until I've given and seen what God can do and what God will do.
That's why I didn't even tell. I was like, I don't even want to say nothing because most people wouldn't understand why I do that.
You know I have that issue.
I wouldn't even.
Your husband kicked your butt if you found out about that.
No.
No, I'm messing with you. No, that's the whole point. It's not about other people. Like I say, that they don't have a clue. See, that's one thing you're going to find out. It's difficult to explain tithing to a non-tither. It's almost impossible to explain God will bless you to somebody who hasn't been blessed. But now He blesses everybody, but everybody's not cognizant or conscious of God's blessing. So then I've got to grow to the point where I'm able to give. And then once I try God, then as those windows open up. See, just like you told the story about the airplane. You want to tell you about that?
That's what I was thinking about.
And then God ended up blessing the airplane. Well, he was saying today, I listened to this. And by the way, you can go online to hear all these lessons. Robert Morris. And he was saying the airplane wasn't the last thing. He ended up giving the airplane away. And then God says to him, and I said, well, I really think something about preaching on this. Well, y'all remember that story when Solomon, when God says, I'll give you whatever you want? Y'all remember I preached that sermon? Pressure, let's see, priorities, a request for priorities. Let's see, a request for blessings and proper priorities. Yeah, something like that. I'm missing R. But anyway, my point is this. He basically writes Solomon a blank check. So you give me whatever you want to give. But when he was saying, I hadn't thought about that, that's maybe a thing about preaching again Sunday, is what happened before that, before God did that. Well, the day before, it starts off in chapter 3, I think it is. I think it's 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 14, or 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 14, where he talks about the infinities. He said he first made offerings to God. He offers God. It's his inauguration. He's supposed to offer one bull. How many bulls Solomon offered? 1,000. 1,000. You feel me? Do you think that's extravagant? Yeah. If all the other kings had offered one bull, you could say it was extravagant to give 10 bulls. You could say it's extravagant to give 100 bulls. But Solomon gave 1,000 bulls. And he was saying, I think that's what God's trying to tell us. When you grow to the point of being extravagant, God becomes extravagant with you. Whatever you want, what do you want? Now think about that. So think about that. If God asks you, what is it you want? Whatever you want, I'm gonna give it to you. What would you say? Whatever you want. I ain't talking about your church out there. I only want your answer here. Because I know y'all church, y'all come with all these noble answers. I'm talking about if God actually asks you, I want 100 billion. On my something, I would be sorry. I want a big corporation. It's a whole lot of stuff you can come up with. What you got brought here?
Way to church where I want to catch the bus.
All right.
We can answer that question right now. The church do better. The church ought to have a van picking you up like they used to, but that's another term.
Yeah.
Used to have 2 of them.
Yeah.
Put that on TV. But the point is that God doesn't give spiritual blank checks to carnal minds. What did Solomon ask for? Hiding the desires of your heart is in line with God's will. God, give me the desires of my heart. Well, I want Joanne. I'm going to break up our marriage. That's not in God's will. How you know that? How do I know that's not in God's will? Because it's a sin. That's adultery. You see what I'm talking about? So how you going to say, you just said God gave you desires. You need to change your desires. You need to start spending some time with God. You need to tune into God so that God can change your desires so that your desires are in line with His desires. Get what you want. You see, when our desires line up with His, God has no problem multiplying. Multiplying. It's all through Scripture. You see, Solomon was a pretty extravagant dude anyway, but he did a lot of giving. Did a lot of giving. He called, tell the guys, I need this, I need that, I need that, but he always was giving. He had a guy who majored in cedar. He needed a lot of cedar to build that temple. God sent the cedar, but when the guy sent cedar, he ended up sending him something else. But he wasn't just trying to mooch off on somebody. He was blessed. So once I come to grips with God's desires, just like what he's talking about, he ain't saying I need transportation. He said, I need transportation to get to God's house. But now that's got to be in God's will. Because God wants him to be able to come. He just had to tell him he had to miss church Sunday because he didn't have a way to come to church. So God said, I can deal with that. I can take care of that. I can handle that. Any questions so far? He said you can't multiply it if you don't give it. So then, I said the tithe is what God blesses. He's going to bless the 9/10 to be able to cover the 10/10. But what about the offering thing? How do you step from giving to extravagant giving? How do you grow the giving? I can't give extravagantly if I don't have extravagance. You had $1,500, you gave $500. You wouldn't be able to give $500 if all you got was $300. How many times you didn't have $300 when you sold it? You see my point? See, one reason I'm able to be extravagant is because God has blessed my giving. So now I got choices I didn't even have before. Because God can multiply my giving because I'm giving. He can't multiply my giving if I'm not giving. I've got to give it for him to multiply it. I listened this morning, a guy was saying he was in New York. He was born and raised in Utah, but he was in New York. He was scared to death, big city. Anyway, he was at some opera or something, and the play was going on, and he said he really enjoyed the play. He really was getting into it. After the play, he said this guy came up with his wife. Didn't know him, never saw him before. And say, you must be from out of town. I said, yeah, he told him. He said, my wife and I noticed how you were enjoying that play. I said, man, you were really into it. It must have been some kind of showing, like I say, what they call a trailer or whatever. Anyway, they said, you enjoyed that so much, I'm gonna buy you a ticket to that play. We want you to go with that. And gave him $200 to buy a ticket to a play in New York. Now this man is having a hard time. He just got to New York. He having a hard time eating, let alone. Now you got $200. And he said, man, I can do a whole lot with $200. Buy me a whole lot of Happy Meals with $200. He said the man gave it to him to buy. And so he bought the ticket to the play. Long story short, he ended up being in the play. Fast forward, he's an actor now. But he said he always remembered the kindness that man showed him. So one of the things he does is he always buys free tickets for people to come to the play. He even takes pictures. I think one day like 150 people took a picture. But he was saying how they come full circle. The news reporter said they picked it up where they found the man, because he didn't know, but didn't have no name, didn't have no address. Man just gave him $200. And found the man who gave the $200 and told him what had happened. And the man started almost crying on the video. Because he wasn't giving it for that. He just was giving it. But now this helping one man helped the man to succeed in life, to become successful. And then the man didn't just become successful. He remembered what happened to him. So he's trying to help other folk who are less fortunate. And look at all the people that are being helped. That's somebody multiplying your giving. It's impossible for you to know your impact in giving. Because you don't know where it ends up. I said, I gave Henry $50. Yeah, but you don't know where that $50 will end up. You don't know what Henry's gonna do with it. You know how many lives he's gonna touch because of that $50. And when he touched some lives, talking about paying it forward. When he touched some lives and they pay it forward and somebody else pay it forward, you don't know what's all that's going. Back up. Jesus said for them to sit down in 50s. I mean, he's organizing. I was listening to a young lady Actually, had a little white girl today, but a black girl yesterday said she was $10,000 in debt. And now she has over $100,000 net worth. And they were talking to her, how did she do that? How you go from $10,000 in debt? You know, and she realized there's several things, but a lot of people say basically the same thing. A lot of times, you know, we get in the habit of spending by accident. We intentionally spend, and we end up spending more than we have because you don't know what you're spending. But most times, 90%, 99% of folks who talk about getting your finances together, say the first thing you got to do is sit down and find out where your money going. Said the first thing she did, she had every dollar accountable. She know where she was spending see, when you sit down and see where your money is going, you see where you're wasted money here, wasted money here, here. So that if you're going to improve things, you're going to get things better. So first of all, you got to get out of debt. We talked about that before. Well, you got to have a purpose. She says, I have a purpose for every dollar I have. She has certain accounts. She had to put this, you put this in. And I was thinking about how subconsciously I was doing the same thing. I didn't realize it. But you know, you got taxes coming up at the end of the year. You can start putting a certain amount on side for taxes. You put a certain amount on side for the washing machine breaking down. You just, there's certain things you can, in other words, you got a purpose for every dollar. So ain't no such thing having money left over. If you got a dollar left over, then you put it in the miscellaneous fund for the unknown, but that should be a reason for every dollar. What are you saying, Ames? I'm saying if I want to get my finances together, the first thing I need to do is organize my finances. It bothers me. Some of the biggest spenders are the poorest jokers in the world. Have you noticed you go somewhere and the first joker from the graph of the check and the joker ain't got no money? You trying to pay a check and you can't afford it. If you can't afford to pay it, don't grab for it. Live within your means. Have a plan. I keep telling everybody, one of the things I contend is God sent, and it's personal. If you really want to get in your finances, get out of debt. Get out of debt. Well, you see, I just paid $50 for this, and I paid $20 on my Visa, and I paid $20 on American Express. And then when you get to the end of the year, you find out all you've done is paid a lot of interest. Haven't paid on your principal and wasted a lot of money. Making rich people rich, and you poor. I just think about if I was out of debt, instead of me paying that 20 here, 30 over here, and 50 over here, that'd be my money. That'd be my money. Instead of having to use the credit card to get it, I could pay cash. Or I could use credit card. I use credit card, but whatever I buy in July, I pay at the end of July. I don't buy anything with a credit card that I can't pay at the end of the month. Why? I don't like debt. The Bible says you're supposed to be the lender, not the borrower, instead of the borrower. Instead of you borrowing money, you're supposed to be lending the money. You'll always be better off lending. Have them loan you. Y'all feel it? Any questions? Since y'all was good enough to come in the cold, I'm gonna let y'all go early. Questions or comments? Let me see that. Make sure I got all the important stuff for lectures. Read Hebrews 7, chapter 7, verse 8. Hebrews in the back of the Bible, go toward the back. Hebrews. Right before James and Peter and John, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John. I think you too far back. What you looking at? Hey, your Revelation, that's the last book. Can't go that far back. Got all that junk on the side, y'all. It helps you. No, you got to wear that Hebrews paper. All that junk in there.
Rev, you say Hebrew what?
Chapter 7, verse 8. Read it.
And her men that die receive titles, but there he received them, of whom it was witnessed that he lived. And as I may say so, Levi also, who received tithes, paid tithes in Abraham, for he was yet in the lands of his father when.
See that. That's not. He says in verse 8, and here men that die receive tithes, but there is received, but there he received them, of whom it is witness that he liveth. Basically what he's saying is, he's talking about when Abraham gave tithes to Melchizedek. Okay, Melchizedek, remember, was the king of Salem, and I have to call you back, man. I'm in class. And he was remember, he just won that battle, and the Bible said he paid tithe to Melchizedek, king of Salem. Okay, the point he was making, Melchizedek wasn't a priest. He was a priest, but he wasn't a priest according to the definition of priest in Leviticus, because Leviticus said in order to be a priest, you had to be a direct descendant of Levi. Where Levi is Jacob's boy. Jacob is Isaac's boy. Isaac is Abraham's son. So how he gonna be a priest? Melchizedek ain't related to Abraham, let alone Levi. Where he says, well, just like God made the priesthood with Levi, God made the priesthood anytime he gets ready. God defines what a priesthood is. So he's saying so that Levi and Esther paid tithe to Melchizedek because Abraham paid tithe to Melchizedek. And so all these people was in his line. In other words, they weren't even born yet. Okay? But they were blessed. They were blessed. That Abraham received the blessing and he gave God his portion. So that God blessed Abraham. God blessed Abraham's descendants. That's a good question. Have you ever thought, what are you passing down to your children? Blessings or curse? Blessings or curses? If your children are just like you, what kind of life they will have? Are they spiritually blessed or spiritually cursed? If they dedicated to God like you, are they dedicated?
That's what I'm talking about.
Say what?
Matters which one you talking about.
They are your children.
Matter which time.
Say no.
The question was, if they were just like you, what would they be like? Why do you think Jesus told the disciples to divide those people into 50s? It ain't complicated. If they divide them up into 50s, they're better organized, they'll be easier to eat, to feed. If you try to handle all your problems at once, you can't handle it. Break them down one at a time, you can deal with it. Oh, I got too much on me. Well, don't try to do too much. Do one thing. This house is a mess. I don't know what to do. Start cleaning. But don't clean the whole house.
Clean one room at a time.
Clean one room. Tithing is bringing to God that which is rightfully His. It is when we give over and above the tithe that the miracle of multiplication takes place. How do you decide when, where, and how much to give? And that's basically what we were talking about before. It becomes a spiritual thing. When you're so spiritually tuned into God, you feel safe. This is what God wants me to give. You see, good things say, well, God didn't really want you to give 500. He really wants you to give 200. Well, the thing is, God is not going to penalize you for making that mistake, which I don't believe is a mistake anyway. You got enough faith to go above and beyond. God says, I'm still going to bless you according to your gift. Pray for Coach McGee. His wife, you know, he lost his mother. He's going to be funeralized this coming Saturday in Mississippi. Let's pray for that family. Anybody else?
I talked to a student and her husband, he doing okay.
But he been sick.
Yeah.
You know, James been sick.
He been in the hospital for a few days.
I didn't know that. Did we announce that?
And she called me about everything, and she hadn't told me that.
Yeah, she was. But he didn't take it. He didn't stay on it. So they, I think it's next week. They're supposed to be going. They don't know if they're going to do an operation or not. He said he was going to come.
I'll give him a call. Anybody else? Thank y'all for coming today. I appreciate y'all battling the weather to come out. I'm sure Lord will bless you for your efforts.
Do you know what chapter you're going to be on next week? Yeah.
Come see.
I'm going to be here. I just want to read the book.
Read all of it.
I can't read the whole thing.
I'm not really sure. Look at that here. Good stewardship. What's next in the book?
You jumping around. You be jumping around.
Is it to break the spirit, to breaking the spirit of mammon?
We already did that.
You already did it? I don't remember mammon.
There's nothing on mammon. And I said mammon is not money.
Well, this is good. This is different.
Yeah, it was saying the same lesson. I might get part of it. Let me, because it's all, see, the problem is, I got one order in my workbook, and I got another one in my book. So.
Since I'm going with the work, let's leave it at that. So next week we're gonna be on, I guess we'll do the one on stewardship. That's the one I see we haven't done. What transplant I can do that? Do the right thing. Page 97 in the book. Do the right thing as well. Let's have a closing prayer. I got to use the restroom right quick. But, Reverend Hill, lead us in closing prayer. I'll be right back. Hey, they got some, before you start, they got some food over here. So I'll give it y'all roll.
Lord, we thank you for the lesson today. Here to see destiny be from you. Bless Ms. Johnson, the students, all our sick members. Bless them in the way you see fit. Bless everybody in the world. Bless our pastor. Bless us with charity and grace as we give you praise. And we just thank you for your goodness, your grace, and your mercy. And we ask these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.